I want to start with a question that's refusing to leave my head, and I'm sure you have an opinion on this. If Jeffrey Epstein is dead, why does the world he created still feel alive? Tell me in the comments, because everyone seems to have a point of view, and this is despite the fact that none of us know the whole story. And while you're here, make sure you hit subscribe. You're going to want updates, because this rabbit hole only gets deeper. Now here's the thing about Epstein. Most scandals fade. This one didn't. If anything, it grew teeth after he died, because you know what? Epstein wasn't just a man. He was an ecosystem. A pulsating, high-security, invitation-only network of billionaires, political giants, royals, tech founders, scientists, models, spies, and young girls stolen from the edges of society. His story could have ended in 2019 inside the concrete walls of a Manhattan jail cell. That's how most scandals die. But something did not go according to script here. When the lights allegedly malfunctioned, and the guards allegedly fell asleep, and the cameras mysteriously didn't capture anything, Epstein's ghost was born. A ghost that has not shut up since then. And that's what we're really talking about today. Not the man, but the shadow he left behind. A shadow that, according to whistleblowers, analysts, journalists, survivors, and even a few politicians, a shadow that may lead back to Mossad, Israel's legendary intelligence agency. Wild? Yes. Impossible? No. Worth talking about? Absolutely. So let's talk. Whenever people dive into Epstein's origins, they start with Epstein. Big mistake, because the real prologue to the story, the first crack in the door, belongs to a man named Robert Maxwell. Maxwell wasn't just a media baron. This man, born in a Jewish family in Czechoslovakia, this man escaped Nazi occupation, became a British war hero, then a prominent publisher. He was mythology wrapped in flesh, a war survivor, a billionaire, a political operator, a man who seemed to collect intelligence agencies the way rich people collect watches. CIA, MI6, KGB, Mossad, everyone believed they had him, and in reality, he probably had them. His death in 1991, found floating off his yacht, the Lady Ghislaine, was ruled an accident. But intelligence reporters across London whispered the same phrase: Maxwell knew too much. At his funeral in Jerusalem, Israeli officials treated him like a fallen soldier, not a businessman. That's when suspicions hardened into something closer to certainty. Maxwell had been, for years, a Mossad asset. And his daughter, Ghislaine Maxwell, inherited more than his cheekbones and his charm. She inherited the world he moved in, the world where sex, secrets, and statecraft merge into one toxic cocktail. In the late 1980s, Ghislaine Maxwell brought someone new into that world, a man with no formal qualifications, no clear wealth source, no traceable rise. Jeffrey Edward Epstein. How did a quiet Brooklyn math teacher end up owning private islands, flying presidents on private jets, and maintaining a townhouse gifted by a billionaire? Maybe we need to stop thinking in terms of success and start thinking in terms of placement. Epstein wasn't rich because he was smart. Epstein wasn't powerful because he was talented. Epstein wasn't connected because he was charming. Epstein was placed. By whom? And that's where the debate begins. But tell me, you agree with this. The way he moved, silently, rapidly, without resistance, that is exactly how intelligence assets move. The access he got was way beyond unusual. It was engineered. His partnership with Les Wexner, for instance, inexplicable. His acquisition of a $77 million Manhattan mansion, unbelievable. His ability to avoid real jail time for trafficking minors, otherworldly. And this is where the Mossad theory stops being just a theory and starts looking more and more like a pattern. Because if Epstein was a solo operator, that would mean police forces and law agencies in a dozen countries are totally inept. If, on the other hand, if Epstein was built by the system, things start making more sense, right? Now, let's talk about the people who stake their reputations on this. Ari Ben Menashe, a former Israeli intelligence operative, says he personally witnessed the beginning. Jeffrey Epstein was put straight with Israelis by Robert Maxwell in military intelligence. That sentence alone should have launched multiple congressional hearings. It didn't. Then comes Stephen Hoffenberg, Epstein's former business partner, who claimed Epstein used their Ponzi scheme cash to fund intelligence operations. Hoffenberg died in 2022, alone, oddly. Another thread cut. Then there's Jane Doe 200, who said Epstein openly told her that he was working with Mossad. And let's not forget John Schindler, former NSA officer, who laid out Epstein's disturbing level of access to ex-Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, including more than 30 visits post-conviction. Add Tucker Carlson to this mix, who said the quiet part out loud. Epstein was working on behalf of intelligence services, most likely Mossad. And suddenly, this isn't fringe anymore. It's mainstream adjacent. What makes this story unignorable is that survivors, the people who paid the cost, the survivors also keep pointing to these very same dark shapes in the background. Virginia Giuffre's memoir describes being trafficked to a well-known prime minister in the early 2000s in Little St. James. The timeline points to Ehud Barak. She describes hidden cameras, private rooms with one-way mirrors, Epstein bragging about insurance. Insurance, that word again. Jess Michaels told the press in 2025, it wasn't just for sex. Epstein was collecting favors. Marina Lissarta went further. There were international backers. Everyone knows it. That's what she said. Now, these aren't conspiracy theorists. These are women. These are those women whose lives were stolen, and their accounts echo the analysts' claims totally independently. Now, that should terrify anyone who's paying attention. In September 2025, after years of pressure, the House Oversight Committee released Epstein documents. Except that they weren't real releases. They were sanitized, redacted, edited, scrubbed. Survivors called it a whitewash. Republicans and Democrats, for once, agreed. Senator Marsha Blackburn said it quite plainly. Foreign agents appear to have been involved. Redactions protect allies, not truth. Trump then ordered AG Pam Bondi to look into everything, including foreign ties. Did he mean Mossad? He didn't say it. He didn't have to say it. Because the real story here is that every powerful circle connected to Epstein has something to lose. That's why we still don't have the unredacted files. That's why survivors still don't have justice. That's why Epstein's ghost still walks. Let's imagine, for conversation's sake, that the Mossad allegations are real. What would it mean? It would mean Epstein wasn't a monster, he was an asset. Girls weren't trafficked only for pleasure, they were trafficked for leverage. Politicians weren't friends, they were targets. Justice wasn't delayed, it was intentionally obstructed, and US foreign policy might have been influenced by compromat. Intelligence communities on multiple continents were aware and silent, and most importantly, it would mean the truth was buried to protect countries, not individuals. That's why this conversation matters, because if Epstein was part of a state-backed influence operation, then the public was never meant to see the architecture, only the ruins. Do you think Epstein acted alone? Do you think his network was just a network or something bigger? Do you believe the Mossad allegations have weight, or are they deflection? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely want to know where you stand. And yes, I know we've barely scratched the surface of the story in this video. President Trump, for instance, is he guilty? If yes, how guilty? If not, is he protecting someone? Because the more we know, the more questions open up, the more names crop up. Because clearly, this isn't a story that ends with a suicide note. It's a story that ends with unredacted files. And trust me, there will be a part 2. And yes, maybe more than that. So hit the subscribe button right now as we keep shining the light on the questions that no one's answering.